I need you to understand something before I say anything else. I am not crazy. I know how this sounds. I know what you're going to think when I tell you what happened to me on that train. But I need someone to hear this. I need someone to know because I don't think I have much time before they find me again. It's been 11 days since I got off. 11 days since I stepped onto a platform that shouldn't exist, in a city I still can't find on any map. 11 days since I stopped hearing the sound of those wheels on the tracks. At least, I think I've stopped hearing them. Sometimes, late at night when the apartment goes quiet, I swear I can still feel the vibration under my feet. That low, rhythmic hum, like the train is still moving, like I never really left. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Marcus. I'm 34. I worked as a data analyst for a logistics company based out of Columbus, Ohio. Nothing glamorous. Spreadsheets, supply chain reports, quarterly reviews that nobody read. The kind of job where you measure your life in coffee cups and fluorescent lighting. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand that I am a boring person. I am not the kind of person things happen to. I don't go looking for trouble. I don't explore abandoned buildings. I don't take risks. I took the train because my car broke down. That's it. That's the entire reason. My 2019 Honda Civic threw a rod on the interstate 3 days before I was supposed to be at a conference in Philadelphia. Flights were booked out. Some weather system had grounded half the East Coast, and my boss made it clear that missing this conference wasn't optional. So I looked at alternatives. Bus would have taken 14 hours with 2 transfers. Rental cars were $300 a day because of the flight cancellations. Then I found the train. Amtrak runs a route from Columbus to Philadelphia. I'd never taken it before. I'd never taken any long-distance train before, actually, but the ticket was reasonable, the schedule worked, and I figured I could get some work done on the ride. Laptop, headphones, maybe catch some sleep. Easy. I booked the ticket online. Departure, 11:47 p.m. from Columbus Union Station. Arrival, approximately 10:15 a.m. the next day in Philadelphia, 30th Street Station. Overnight trip, about 10.5 hours, straightforward. I remember packing light. One carry-on bag with my laptop charger, a change of clothes, toiletries, and the conference folder my boss had emailed me to print out. I ate dinner at home. Leftover pasta, nothing special, and called a rideshare to the station around 10:30. The driver was a quiet guy, older. He had talk radio on low, something about grain futures. We didn't speak. I watched the city slide by through the window, all those amber streetlights blurring into streaks on the glass. Columbus at night has this particular emptiness to it, not scary, just hollow, like the city is holding its breath. Union Station was nearly deserted when I arrived. A few people sat in the waiting area. A woman with a rolling suitcase reading a paperback. A kid in a college hoodie with his head on his backpack. An older couple sharing a bag of pretzels. Normal people. Tired people. The kind of people you'd expect at a train station close to midnight. I checked the departure board. Track 3. On time. The platform was cold. Late October, and the wind came through the open sides of the station like it had somewhere to be. I zipped my jacket up and waited. Checked my phone. Scrolled through, nothing. The usual. The train arrived at 11:42, 5 minutes early. I remember that because I thought it was unusual. In my experience, public transit doesn't arrive early. It arrives late or on time if you're lucky. But early felt like a good sign. Efficient. It was a standard Amtrak train, silver and blue, long. I counted maybe 8 or 9 cars as it pulled in, though I wasn't really paying attention. The doors opened with that pneumatic hiss, and a conductor stepped out. A tall woman in a navy uniform, dark hair pulled back, professional smile. "Evening," she said. "Ticket." I showed her the QR code on my phone. She scanned it, nodded, and gestured me aboard. "You're in car 4, seat 22. B. Quiet car. No phone calls, no loud audio. Restrooms are at the end of each car. Cafe car is car 6 if you need anything. Thanks, I said. Have a good trip, Mr. Hayes. I stopped, not because she'd used my name. She'd just scanned my ticket, so of course she had it. It was the way she said it. Like she meant it in a way that went beyond customer service. Like it was advice. I didn't think about it then. I think about it now. Car 4 was quiet. Not just quiet car quiet, but genuinely silent, in a way that felt physical. Like the air was denser. There were maybe 15 people in the car, spread out across the rows, most of them already settled in for the night. Pillows against windows. Eye masks. The occasional blue glow of a phone screen. I found 22B. Window seat, right side. And sat down. The seat was comfortable enough. That worn fabric that every long-distance vehicle seems to share. The kind that holds the ghost of every person who ever sat in it. I stowed my bag in the overhead rack, plugged my phone into the outlet by my seat, and pulled out my laptop. The train pulled out of Columbus at 11:47 exactly, right on schedule. For the first hour, everything was normal, completely, unremarkably normal. I worked on the conference presentation, tweaking slides that didn't need tweaking because I was anxious about presenting them. The train rocked gently, that metronome sway that long-distance rail has. It was almost pleasant. Through the window, Ohio slid past in patches of darkness and occasional light. Small towns reduced to a handful of streetlights, gas stations glowing like aquariums in the black. I closed my laptop around 1 a.m. My eyes were tired, and the presentation was as good as it was going to get. I leaned my seat back, put in my earbuds, and pulled up a podcast. Something about the history of radio. Dry enough to fall asleep to it. I want to be very precise about what happened next because this is where it starts, and I need you to believe me. At approximately 1:20 a.m., the train stopped. Not slowed down. Stopped. Abruptly enough that my laptop bag slid forward on the floor, and the woman across the aisle grabbed her armrest. I pulled out an earbud and waited. Trains stop sometimes. Signal issues. Other trains on the track. Whatever. But the lights didn't flicker. No announcement came over the intercom. The train just sat there, perfectly still, in what looked like absolute darkness outside the window. No town. No lights. No road crossings. Just black. I waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. At the 7-minute mark, I started to feel it. Not fear. Not yet. Just that low-grade unease you get when something routine breaks its pattern. Like when your computer freezes and you're not sure if you should wait or force a restart. That feeling. Then, the intercom clicked on. Good evening, passengers. This is your conductor speaking. We are currently experiencing a brief routing adjustment. Please remain in your seats. Normal service will resume shortly. Thank you for your patience. Routing adjustment. I'd never heard that term before. Delay, sure. Signal issue, mechanical issue, weather-related stoppage. All normal, but routing adjustment sounded like something else. It sounded like the train had gone somewhere it wasn't supposed to be. I looked around the car. Most people were asleep or pretending to be. The woman across the aisle. Middle-aged, gray cardigan, reading glasses pushed up on her head. Caught my eye and shrugged. The universal gesture for who knows. The train started moving again about 2 minutes later. But something was different. I felt it immediately, even though I couldn't have told you what it was. The rhythm of the wheels on the tracks had changed. Not dramatically, just slightly. Like the track gauge had shifted by a fraction of an inch, and the whole harmonic of the ride was off. A musician might describe it as the train being slightly out of tune. I told myself I was imagining it. I put my earbud back in. I closed my eyes. I did not sleep. At 2:15 a.m., I gave up on sleep and decided to walk to the cafe car. I needed something. Coffee, water, just the act of moving. I'd been sitting for almost 3 hours and my legs were stiff. I stood up, stretched, and walked down the aisle toward the front of the car. The quiet car was dim, those overhead lights turned down to a blue-tinged twilight. Everyone was still. The only sounds were breathing and the constant rhythmic percussion of the wheels. I pushed through the connecting door into car 3. Car 3 was empty. Completely empty. Not a single person. And more than that, the seats looked different. Not Amtrak seats. They were older. Wooden armrests, fabric that might have been green once but had faded to something between gray and nothing. The overhead lights were a warmer color, more yellow, and 2 of them were flickering in that way that fluorescent bulbs do when they're dying. I stopped in the aisle, looked back through the connecting door window at car 4. My car. I could see the dim blue lighting, the shapes of sleeping passengers. Normal. I looked forward again at car 3. Wrong. But here's the thing. I rationalized it. Immediately. Amtrak probably uses mixed rolling stock, right? Older cars, newer cars, whatever they have available. Maybe car 3 was a heritage car or a backup that got pressed into service. Maybe it just wasn't popular and nobody booked seats in it. There were explanations, reasonable ones. I walked through it. My footsteps sounded different in there, louder, like the floor was thinner or the space underneath was hollowed out. The seats had no numbers that I could see. No overhead bins. The windows were smaller, and through them I could see nothing. The same impenetrable darkness. Not even the reflection of the car's interior lighting on the glass. Just flat, matte black, like the windows had been painted over from the outside. I reached the far end of car 3 and pushed through the connecting door into car 2. Car 2 was normal. Amtrak seats, overhead bins, a few sleeping passengers. The lights were at that same blue twilight level. A guy in a business suit was awake, scrolling on his phone. He didn't look up as I passed. I stood there for a moment, looking back through the connecting door at car 3. From this side, through the small rectangular window, it looked fine, normal. I couldn't see the old seats or the yellow lighting. Just a dim car, maybe slightly darker than the others. I kept walking. Cars 2 and 1 were what I expected. Then I reached the end of car 1 and turned around, heading back through toward the cafe car, which the conductor had said was car 6. Back through car 2, through the connecting door, into car 3. Car 3 was different again. Not empty this time. There was a man sitting in the middle of the car, roughly 5 rows back from where I'd entered. He was sitting perfectly upright, hands on his knees, staring straight ahead at the seat back in front of him. He was wearing dark clothes. A coat maybe, or a suit. I couldn't tell his age from behind. "Excuse me," I said. Not because I needed anything from him. Just because the silence was getting to me, and I wanted to hear another human voice. He didn't move, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge me at all. I kept walking. As I passed his row, I glanced at him. He was older. Maybe 60, maybe 70, clean-shaven. His eyes were open and fixed on some point in front of him. His expression wasn't blank exactly. It was patient, like he was waiting for something he knew was coming. I didn't say anything else. I walked past him to the connecting door and pushed through into car 4, my car, and then continued through to car 5. Car 5 was a normal coach car, a few more passengers than my car, most of them asleep. A woman near the back was knitting something in the near darkness, her needles clicking with mechanical precision. She didn't look up. Car 6, the cafe car. It was open, which surprised me a little. A late-night cafe car on an overnight train. I half expected it to be shuttered. But the counter was lit, the menu boards were glowing, and behind the counter stood a man in an Amtrak vest. "What can I get you?" he said. He was young, maybe mid-20s. Buzz cut. Friendly face. A name tag that said, Derek. Just a coffee. Black. You got it. He poured it from a carafe that looked like it had been sitting for a while. I didn't care. I just wanted something warm to hold. Quiet night, I said, because I'm the kind of person who makes small talk with service workers when I'm nervous, even though I hate small talk. Derek smiled. Always quiet on this one. This route specifically? This train, he said. And then he did something that I've replayed in my head maybe 1,000 times in the last 11 days. He leaned forward slightly, just a few inches, and he lowered his voice. Not to a whisper, just lower, conspiratorial. You're in car 4, right? Yeah. Stay in car 4. I waited for him to elaborate. He didn't. He just smiled again. The same friendly customer service smile, and turned to wipe down the counter behind him. What do you mean? I asked. Just a tip. Some of the other cars can be a little inconsistent this time of night. Car 4 is stable. You'll be more comfortable there. Inconsistent how? You know how it is, he said. Old trains. Things shift around a little. He wouldn't say more. I tried twice more to get him to explain, and each time he deflected with a smile and something vague. Eventually I took my coffee and left. On the way back, I stopped at the connecting door to car 3. Through the small window, the car looked empty again. Normal Amtrak seats, no old man, no vintage upholstery. I went back to my seat, sat down, drank my coffee, tried to convince myself that I was overtired, that the train was just a train, that Derek was just a weird guy working a weird shift. The coffee was bitter and lukewarm, but I finished it anyway. At 2:48 a.m., I looked out the window and saw something that I cannot explain. We were passing through what should have been rural Pennsylvania. Farmland, maybe some early foothills. But what I saw outside was a field. A massive, flat, open field stretching to the horizon in every direction. And it was daylight. Not dawn, not twilight. Full midday sun, bright, clear sky, and the field was, I want to say wheat, but it wasn't exactly wheat. It was some kind of grain, tall, golden brown, swaying slightly even though the air looked perfectly still. And it went on forever. No roads, no buildings, no trees, just grain and sky and sun. I looked around the car, the blue twilight lighting, sleeping passengers. The window across the aisle showed the same thing, that impossible sunlit field. Nobody else seemed to notice. Nobody else was looking. It lasted about 90 seconds. Then, like a channel changing, the window went black again. Night. Darkness. Trees appearing briefly in the distance, then gone. I pressed my face against the glass and looked back along the train. The windows of the other cars were just reflected light. No sign of the field. Like it had never been there. My hands were shaking. Not a lot. Just enough that I noticed. I picked up my phone. 2:50 a.m. The signal indicator showed no bars, which wasn't unusual for rural areas at night. But when I opened my Maps app, the GPS dot was gone. Not inaccurate. Gone. The map showed the eastern United States, my planned route marked in blue, but there was no indicator for my current position. The phone didn't know where I was. I told myself, rural area, bad signal, GPS needs towers, all true, all reasonable. But the field, the sun, that wasn't reasonable. That wasn't a GPS issue. I put my phone away and sat very still in my seat. This is when I should have started panicking. Looking back, I know that. A normal person sees an impossible sunlit field from a nighttime train window, and they panic. They wake up the other passengers. They find the conductor. They demand answers. But I didn't do any of those things. And I think I know why. Because some part of me, some deep, Lizard-brained, survival instinct part of me understood that panicking on this train was not a good idea, that drawing attention to what I'd seen would be a mistake, that the rules were different here and I didn't know what they were yet. So I sat, and I waited, and I watched. The next hour was the longest hour of my life up to that point. I say up to that point because the hours that came after made it feel like nothing. I stayed in my seat. I watched the window. The darkness outside continued unbroken, featureless, occasionally interrupted by what might have been trees or hills, but always too brief and too shapeless to identify. No towns, no crossings, no other trains, no headlights on distant roads. Just the train, pushing through black. At 3:30 a.m., I noticed something about the passengers in my car. There were 15 of us when I'd boarded. I'd counted, the way you do when you're bored and your brain needs something to catalog. 15 people, including me. But now, sitting there in the blue twilight, I counted again. 17. 2 additional people. One was sitting 3 rows ahead of me, on the aisle side. A woman. Young, maybe early 20s. Dark hair. She was sitting perfectly still, head slightly tilted toward the window. I hadn't seen her before. I was certain. I'd walked past every row on my way to the cafe car and back, and that seat had been empty. The other was behind me. I could feel them more than see them. That particular awareness you get when someone is watching you. The hairs on the back of your neck, the sense of a presence occupying space just outside your peripheral vision. I turned around, slowly. A man, sitting 2 rows back, directly behind me on the other side of the aisle. Middle-aged, glasses, reading a newspaper, a physical newspaper folded in quarters the way commuters do. In the dim blue light, I couldn't make out the headlines, but the paper looked yellowed. Old. He glanced up and caught me looking. Smiled. A small, polite, stranger on public transit smile. Then went back to his paper. I turned around. My heart was beating harder now. Not fast. Harder. Like each beat was deliberate, emphatic. 2 new passengers. On a train that hadn't stopped since that routing adjustment 3 hours ago. No new boarding. No stops announced. They were just here now. I opened the notes app on my phone and typed, 15 passengers at boarding, now 17. New woman, row 19 aisle. New man, row 24 aisle. No stops since Columbus. I don't know why I wrote it down. Maybe because I needed to externalize it to make it something outside my head. Maybe because I was already thinking that if something happened to me, someone might find my phone and understand. At 3:45 a.m., the intercom clicked on again. Attention passengers. We will be arriving at the next station in approximately 20 minutes. Passengers departing at Thornfield, please gather your belongings. Thornfield. I pulled up the Amtrak route map I'd screenshotted before boarding. Columbus to Philadelphia. The stops were Columbus, Crestline, Mansfield, Alliance, Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Altoona, Harrisburg, Lancaster, Philadelphia. 10 stops. Thornfield was not one of them. Thornfield was not on the list. I opened Google and searched Thornfield train station. No results. Thornfield Amtrak. Nothing. Thornfield, Pennsylvania. A few hits. A township. Tiny, population maybe 200. No train station listed. No Amtrak service. The woman across the aisle, the one in the gray cardigan who'd shrugged at me earlier, was awake now. She was packing things into a bag, a book, a water bottle, a phone charger. She was getting ready to leave. "Excuse me," I said, leaning across the aisle. "Are you getting off at Thornfield?" She looked at me, smiled. "That's my stop." "I didn't see it on the route map. Is it a regular stop?" Her smile didn't change, but something behind it did. A flicker of something. Not quite confusion, not quite pity. Something in between. It's always been a stop, she said. You must have an old map. I downloaded it yesterday. She shrugged. That same gesture from before. Maps change. She went back to packing her bag. Conversation over. At 4:02 a.m., the train slowed. I felt it in my bones before I heard it. The deceleration, the wheels changing pitch, the gentle forward lean of inertia adjusting. Through the window, lights appeared. Not many. A few lamp posts, a concrete platform, a small shelter with a peaked roof. A sign that read, Thornfield, in white letters on a dark green background. The train stopped. The doors hissed open. Cold air flooded in. Colder than Columbus had been. Much colder. The kind of cold that has weight to it, that presses against your skin like fingers. The woman in the gray cardigan stood, pulled her bag from the overhead rack, and walked down the aisle. As she passed my seat, she paused, looked down at me. "Don't get off before your stop," she said. Then she walked to the door and stepped out onto the platform. Through the window, I watched her walk toward the shelter, her breath making small white clouds. She didn't look back. 3 other people got off at Thornfield. People I hadn't noticed before, from other cars. They walked across the platform and disappeared into the darkness beyond the shelter's light. No cars waiting, no parking lot, no road visible. Just the platform, the shelter, and the dark. No one got on. The doors closed. The train moved. I counted the passengers in my car again. 14. The woman who'd left, -1 from my original 15. The 2 new passengers, the dark-haired woman and the newspaper man, were still there. My math didn't work. 15 minus 1 should be 14, but with 2 new ones it should be 16. I counted again. 14. 2 of the original passengers were gone. Not the ones I'd expected. I looked around, trying to identify who was missing. The kid in the college hoodie. He'd been near the front. Gone. And an older man who'd been sleeping near the back with a briefcase on his lap. Gone. No bags left behind. No sign they'd ever been there. I typed in my notes. Thornfield. Stop, not on official route. 4 departed including cardigan woman. 2 original passengers missing. College kid and briefcase man. Did not see them depart. Current count, 14. Math doesn't add up. I stared at those words on my screen. Then I added, something is wrong with this train. It felt important to write it, to commit to it, to stop rationalizing. At 4:20 a.m., I decided to go back to the cafe car. Not for coffee, for Derek. He'd told me to stay in car 4. He'd called it stable. That word choice bothered me. You call a building stable. You call a patient stable. You call something stable when instability is the alternative. He knew something. I was sure of it. I stood up, stretched, walked down the aisle. This time, when I pushed through the connecting door into car 5, I stopped. Car 5 was not car 5. It was longer, much longer. The car I'd walked through 2 hours ago had been standard length, maybe 70 feet, 40-odd seats. This car stretched out in front of me like a hallway. I could see seats receding into the distance, rows upon rows, the overhead lights creating a tunnel of blue-white illumination that seemed to narrow to a point, like a perspective drawing, like the car went on for a quarter mile. And it was full, every seat occupied, dozens, maybe hundreds, of people sitting quietly in the blue light, some sleeping, some reading, some staring straight ahead with that same patient expression I'd seen on the old man in car 3. None of them looked at me. I stood in the doorway for a long time, 30 seconds, a minute, trying to process what I was seeing, trying to make it fit into a framework that included physics and reality and the basic laws of how trains work. It didn't fit. I walked. What else could I do? I walked down the aisle of this impossible car, past face after face, row after row. Nobody looked up. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were the wheels, the breathing, and my own footsteps on the industrial carpet. Some of the passengers were dressed normally, jeans, jackets, the usual, but some of them weren't. As I walked deeper into the car, the clothing started to change. A man in a three-piece suit that looked like it was from the 1940s. A woman in a high-collared dress with buttons up to her throat, something from the turn of the century. A boy, maybe 12, maybe 13, in short pants and suspenders, holding a leather satchel. All sitting, all quiet, all patient. I passed a woman who was crying, silently, tears running down her cheeks, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on nothing. She was wearing modern clothes, a fleece jacket, jeans, sneakers. She looked like she could have been from my world, my time, my reality. I almost stopped, almost asked her what was wrong. But I didn't. Because I noticed something about the people around her, the ones in the older clothes. They were all turned slightly toward her, not looking at her. Their eyes were still forward, but oriented toward her, the way flowers orient toward sun. Like she was generating something they could sense. Like her distress was a frequency they were tuned to. I kept walking. The car ended eventually. It might have taken me 5 minutes to walk through it, or it might have taken 15. Time was becoming unreliable. The connecting door at the far end led into another car, and this one, mercifully, was normal-sized. It was car 6, the cafe car, but it looked different. The counter was there, the menu boards, but the lights were dimmer, and the boards showed different items than before. Handwritten, in chalk, prices and amounts that didn't make sense. A coffee for 12 cents, a sandwich for 35 cents, a price list from another decade. Derek was not behind the counter. An older woman was, heavy-set, gray hair pinned up, an apron over a white blouse. She looked at me with mild interest. "Help you?" "Where's Derek?" "Who?" "The guy who was working here earlier. Young guy, buzz cut." She frowned. "Nobody by that name on this train, sweetheart. Just me. Been just me for 3 years." "3 years? How long have you been on this route?" She smiled. It was not a comforting smile. "This train doesn't have routes, honey. It has patterns." "What does that mean?" "It means you should go back to your seat. You're in car 4, aren't you?" That stopped me cold. "How do you know that?" "Because that's where they put the new ones. Car 4 is gentle, eases you in." She was wiping the counter now, the same circular motion Derek had used, the same cloth. "How long have you been aboard?" "Since Columbus, about 5 hours." She looked at me, really looked at me, and her expression changed to something I can only describe as deep, practiced compassion. The kind of look a hospice nurse gives a patient. "Oh, honey," she said, "Columbus isn't a real stop." The floor dropped out of my stomach. "What are you talking about? I boarded in Columbus, Ohio, at Union Station." She shook her head, slowly. "There is no Union Station in Columbus. Not anymore. They tore it down in the 70s. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was there, 4 hours ago. I walked through it. There were people, other passengers." "I know," she said. "I know you were there. And I know it felt real. It always feels real. That's how the train works. It finds you where you are, and it makes a door. And the door looks like whatever makes sense. For you, it was a train station. For someone else, maybe it's a subway entrance or a bus stop or a hallway that shouldn't be there. The train needs passengers, so it makes doors. I was gripping the edge of the counter. My knuckles were white. That's insane, I said. Yes, she agreed. It is. I need to get off this train. You will, eventually. Everyone does. When? When it's done with you, or when you figure out the pattern, whichever comes first. She paused. Most people don't figure out the pattern. What pattern? She stopped wiping, leaned forward. Her voice dropped, the same way Derek's had. The train moves through places, not places on a map. Places that are between maps. Gaps, seams. The world has edges, honey, and this train rides along them. It picks people up and it carries them, and while it carries them, it feeds. Feeds on what? Attention, fear, memory, whatever you're generating the most of. Right now for you, it's confusion. Confusion is light. The train can live on confusion for a while, but eventually it'll want something heavier, something richer. Like what? Terror, she said. Despair. The feeling you get when you realize that no one is coming to save you and the place you're in doesn't follow any rules you understand. That's the good stuff. That's what makes the train run. I let go of the counter, stepped back. I'm going back to my seat, I said. Good idea. And Marcus. I hadn't told her my name. Don't go past car 7. Whatever you do, don't go past car 7. I left. I walked back through the cafe car into the elongated car 5. It was normal length this time, 40 seats, a handful of passengers. The crying woman was gone. Everyone was in modern clothes. I passed through it in 30 seconds and was back in car 4. My seat, my bag, my phone plugged into the outlet. I sat down. My hands were shaking visibly now. I looked at my phone. It said 4:35 a.m. The battery was at 62%. The time seemed right. I'd left my seat at 4:20, spent maybe 15 minutes in the cafe car. That tracked. But the date didn't track. When I'd boarded, it had been October the 28th. My phone now read October 31st. 3 days. I'd been on this train for 5 hours, and my phone said 3 days had passed. I checked every clock I had, my phone, my laptop, my watch. An analog one, a gift from my father. They all agreed, October 31st, and the time on each was different. My phone said 4:35 a.m. My laptop said 2:17 p.m. My watch said 11 o'clock exactly. The second hand on the watch wasn't moving. I closed everything. Put my phone face down on the seat beside me. Pressed my palms against my eyes until I saw colors. Think, Marcus. Think. What did I know? The train was not a normal train. It existed in some kind of space between places. It picked up passengers through fake stops. It fed on emotions, primarily fear. Car 4 was stable, whatever that meant. Don't go past car 7. The cafe car woman knew my name. And time was broken. I took a breath, then another. Then I opened my notes app and started writing everything down. Everything the cafe woman had said. Everything Derek had said. Every anomaly I'd observed. The changing car 3. The sunlit field. The elongated car 5. The passenger count discrepancy. Thornfield. The dates. If this was real, if any of this was real, then information was my only weapon. I couldn't fight the train. I couldn't jump off while it was moving through whatever void it was moving through. But I could understand it. I could find the pattern the woman mentioned. I could figure out the rules. I started with what I had. Rule 1, stay in car 4. 2 different crew members had told me this. Car 4 was safe, stable, the gentle car. Rule 2, don't go past car 7. The cafe woman had been explicit about this. Something worse was in the higher-numbered cars. Rule 3. The train feeds on fear. The more afraid I was, the more power it had. So staying calm wasn't just good practice. It was survival strategy. Rule 4. Time doesn't work normally. My devices disagreed on both date and time. I couldn't trust any temporal measurement. Okay. Rule 5. The car layout is fluid. Cars change their length, appearance, and passenger composition without warning. What I see in a car may not be what's actually there. Rule 6. Passengers appear and disappear. Some may not be real, some may be from different times. Rule 7. The train has stops, but they're not real places. Or they're real places that don't exist in normal geography. Getting off at one might or might not be safe. I stared at my list. 7 rules, and none of them told me how to get off. None of them told me where I was going. None of them told me what was in the cars past car 7. But it was something. It was a framework, and frameworks are how I think. Data in, analysis out, patterns emerge. That was my job. That was who I was. The train had picked up a data analyst, and a data analyst was what it was going to get. I just had to stay calm long enough to use it. At 5 a.m., or whatever 5 a.m. meant anymore, the lights in car 4 began to change. Not dramatically. They shifted from that blue twilight to something warmer, slightly brighter, like a simulated dawn. Around me, passengers began stirring. The mechanical sounds of people waking up on public transit. Shifting weight, clearing throats, the rustle of jackets and bags. The dark-haired woman in row 19 was gone. The newspaper man was still there, but his newspaper was different. I could see the front page now. The headline read, "Governor announces new rail expansion. Coast to coast by 1952. Below it, a black and white photograph of men in hats shaking hands. 1952. He caught me looking again, smiled, the same polite smile. "Interesting news," I said, testing something. He looked down at his paper, then back at me. Same old, same old. Government spending. You know how it is." "What year is it?" I asked, directly. No subtlety. He blinked. "What year?" "Yes." He looked at me for a long moment. The smile faded, not to a frown, to something neutral, something careful. "It's whatever year you need it to be," he said. Then he folded his paper, stood up, and walked down the aisle toward the back of the car. I watched him go. He pushed through the connecting door into car 5, and when I looked through the window after him, I couldn't see him. The car behind was there, but he wasn't in it. I was down to 13 passengers, 12, not counting me. The intercom clicked on. "Good morning, passengers. We will be making a brief stop at Linden Crossing in approximately 15 minutes. Passengers continuing to all points beyond, please remain in your seats." Linden Crossing. Also not on my route map. Also, I was certain, not a real place. But this time, something else happened. Under the announcement, beneath the conductor's voice, there was another sound. Faint, almost subliminal. I might have missed it if I hadn't been listening so hard, if every nerve in my body hadn't been tuned to maximum sensitivity. It was breathing. Not the conductor's breathing. Something else. Something larger, deeper. A slow, massive inhalation that lasted the entire length of the announcement, as if whatever was breathing had lungs the size of rooms. And then, just before the intercom clicked off, a sound that I can only describe as a swallow. A wet, organic, satisfied sound, like something taking a drink. The intercom clicked off. I looked around the car. Nobody else seemed to have heard it. A man 2 rows ahead was stretching his arms above his head. A woman was rummaging through her bag for something. Normal morning behavior. Normal people doing normal things on what they apparently believed was a normal train. Were they even real? Were any of them passengers like me? People who'd boarded, thinking they were going somewhere? Or were they something else? Set dressing, atmosphere, part of the train's performance. I didn't know. And not knowing was the worst part, because it meant I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't compare notes. I was alone in a crowd, and every face around me might be a mask. The train slowed again. Through the window, another platform materialized out of the darkness. This one was more elaborate than Thornfield. A proper station building, brick with arched windows and a clock tower. The clock read 7 o'clock even, though my phone said 5:12 a.m., and my laptop, which I'd given up checking, said something else entirely. A sign on the building read, Linden Crossing, in ornate gold letters on a black background. The style looked Victorian. 3 passengers in my car stood up and began gathering their things. I watched them carefully. 2 I recognized from the original 15. A man in his 40s with a hiking backpack, and a younger woman with short blonde hair and a neck pillow. The third was someone I'd never seen before, sitting in a row I could have sworn was empty 5 minutes ago. He was wearing a long coat and carrying a leather valise. They walked to the door. The blonde woman paused at my row and looked at me. Her eyes were, the only word I have is clear, unnaturally clear, like looking into water with no bottom. "You should get off," she whispered, "while you still can." "Is it safe?" "Safer than staying." The cafe woman told me to stay in car 4. Something crossed her face. Recognition. Understanding. "The cafe woman has been on this train for a very long time," she said. "Long enough to become part of it. Don't trust anyone who tells you to stay." Then she walked out the door and onto the platform. Through the window, I watched her stand there. She was looking at something I couldn't see. Something beyond the station building, beyond the cone of lamplight. Her expression wasn't relieved. It was resigned. The doors closed. The train moved. Linden Crossing fell away into the dark. I was down to 10 passengers. And now I had contradictory information. Derek and the cafe woman said stay. The blonde woman said get off. One side told me car 4 was safe. The other told me nowhere on the train was safe. Both sounded convincing. Both spoke with the authority of experience. I typed it into my notes. Conflicting advice. Stay versus leave. Can't trust either source. Need more data. More data. On a train that existed outside reality, where time was broken and passengers appeared from 1952. What kind of data was I going to find? The answer came at 5:30 a.m., and it came from the seat pocket. I'd been on this train for nearly 6 hours without checking the seat pocket in front of me. You know the one. That elastic mesh pouch on the back of every train and airplane seat. The one that's always stuffed with safety cards and abandoned magazines and someone's gum wrapper. I don't know what made me check it. Boredom, desperation, the feeling that I'd missed something obvious. Inside was a laminated card. Not a safety card, not a route map. A card, roughly the size of a playing card, with text printed on both sides in small, neat type. The lamination was heavy, professional, like it had been made to last. The front read, "Welcome aboard. You are a passenger on the overnight service. Please observe the following guidelines for your comfort and safety." I flipped it over. The back had a numbered list. 1. Remain in your assigned car between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. 2. The cafe car is open during safe hours only. If the menu is handwritten, leave immediately. 3. Do not count the other passengers. 4. Do not look out the left side windows between stations. 5. If the train stops and no announcement is made, close your eyes until it moves again. 6. Do not enter any car numbered higher than your own +3. 7. If a passenger asks you what year it is, do not answer. 8. The conductor is not the same person every time you see her. Act as though she is. 9. If you hear your name spoken and no one is near you, do not respond. 10. You will arrive at your destination. This is a promise, but your destination may not be where you intended to go. I read the card 3 times. Then I photographed it with my phone. Then I read it 3 more times. Rules. Actual rules. Written down. Laminated. Placed in the seat pocket like a safety card. Someone had made this. Someone who understood the train well enough to codify its behavior. Someone who cared enough about future passengers to leave a guide. And I'd already broken at least 4 of them. Rule 1. I'd left my car before 6 a.m. twice. Rule 2. The menu had been handwritten on my second visit to the cafe car. Chalk on a board. I hadn't left immediately. I'd stayed and had a conversation. Rule 3. I'd counted the passengers. Multiple times. Obsessively. Rule 6. I was in car 4. Car 4 plus 3 was car 7. The cafe woman had told me not to go past car 7. The card agreed, but I'd already been to car 6, which was within the limit. So I hadn't broken that one. Yet. Rule 7. I'd asked the newspaper man what year it was. He'd answered, but the rules said not to answer. I'd been the one asking, not answering. A loophole or a different kind of violation? My hands were trembling again. Not from cold, from the dawning realization that this situation had parameters, structure, that it wasn't random chaos. It was a system with rules, and I was inside the system, and I had been stumbling through it blind, breaking rules I didn't know existed. What were the consequences? I looked at the card again. It didn't say, no penalties listed. No, if you break Rule 3, then X happens. Just the rules. Flat. Declarative. Like commandments. Rule 3 scared me the most. Don't count the other passengers. I'd been counting them all night. It was the first thing I'd done when things started getting strange. I'd counted and recounted and tracked the numbers in my notes. And the numbers had been wrong, inconsistent, impossible. What if counting them was what made them change? What if my observation was affecting the system? I put the card in my jacket pocket, zipped the pocket shut. Then I opened my notes and added the 10 rules, word for word. Below them I wrote, have broken rules 1, 2, 3, and possibly 7. Unknown consequences. Do not break remaining rules. I looked at my phone. 5:43 a.m. Rule 1 said to remain in my assigned car between midnight and 6 a.m., 17 minutes. Whatever protections car 4 offered during daylight hours, they apparently weren't in full effect during the night, and I'd been wandering through unstable cars for hours. 17 minutes. I could wait 17 minutes. I put my phone in my pocket. I sat perfectly still. I did not look out the left side windows, which was my side, the window side. I fixed my eyes on the seat back in front of me, and I waited. 16 minutes. Nothing happened for the first 5. The train rocked, the wheels drummed, normal sounds, steady rhythm. Then at 11 minutes to 6, someone sat down next to me. I was in the window seat, 22B. The aisle seat, 22A, had been empty all night. I hadn't seen anyone approach. I hadn't heard footsteps. One moment the seat was empty, and the next there was pressure beside me. Weight in the cushion. The faint displacement of air that another body creates. I did not look. Rule 9 said not to respond if I heard my name. This wasn't exactly that. No one had said my name. But the principle felt the same. Don't acknowledge. Don't engage. Don't give it what it wants. I kept my eyes on the seat back. I breathed. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way you breathe when you're trying not to scream. The presence beside me shifted, settling in, getting comfortable. I could feel it looking at me. That laser point awareness of being watched from inches away. Then it spoke. "You found the card." A woman's voice. Low, calm, familiar in a way I couldn't place. I didn't respond. "I know you can hear me, Marcus. My name, Rule 9. I didn't respond. "Good," she said. "You're learning. That's good. Most people don't learn this fast." Silence. The wheels. The breathing. Mine. And something else. Something slower. Something that might have been hers, or might have been the train itself. 6 a.m. is in 9 minutes, she said. After that, you can look. After that, the night rules stop applying and the day rules start. Day rules are more forgiving. But Marcus, you need to understand something. You've already attracted attention. The counting. The train felt you counting. It knows you're aware now. And once it knows you're aware, it gets interested. I bit the inside of my cheek, hard enough to taste copper. Interested is bad, she continued. Confused passengers are snack food. Scared passengers are a meal. But aware passengers who are trying to understand the system, that's a feast. The train will start testing you, showing you things, offering you choices. Every choice is a test. Every test has stakes. 7 minutes. I'm telling you this because I was like you. I found the card. I learned the rules. I thought I could analyze my way out. And I almost did. I almost made it. Her voice changed on that last word. Just slightly. A hairline fracture in the calm. Almost, she repeated. Almost is the worst word on this train. 5 minutes. When 6 a.m. comes, look at me. Look at me and remember what you see. Because I'm what happens when you almost figure it out. I sat. I waited. I counted seconds in my head. A violation of Rule 3's spirit, maybe, counting anything on this train. But I couldn't help it. Counting was all I had. 4 minutes. 3, 2, 1. My phone buzzed. A single vibration. I looked at the screen. 6 a.m. And below it, a notification I'd never seen before, not from any app I had installed. Just a line of text on a black background. Night cycle complete. Thank you for your patience. I turned to look at 22A. The seat was empty. But it wasn't unchanged. There was an impression in the cushion, the shape of a person who'd been sitting there, and on the armrest, scratched into the plastic with something sharp, a fingernail maybe, or a key, were 2 words. Don't count. I stared at those words until the impression in the cushion slowly, gradually filled itself back in, like memory foam with a long memory, until the seat looked as if no one had ever sat in it at all. But the scratched words remained. The day cycle, if you could call it that, was different. The lights in car 4 brightened to something approximating natural daylight. Warm even, almost pleasant. Outside the right side windows I could see landscape, real landscape, rolling hills, patches of forest, the occasional road with actual cars on it, a billboard advertising a personal injury lawyer, a water tower with a town name I couldn't read, signs of the real world. Through the left side windows, the ones the card told me not to look at during night hours, the view was the same, normal, daylit countryside. Whatever prohibition applied to the left windows at night didn't seem to apply now. Or maybe it did, and the day view was just better at hiding it. Passengers were waking up fully now, checking phones, though none of them seemed troubled by signal issues. One man was having what appeared to be a normal phone conversation. "Yeah, I'll be there by noon. No, it's been fine. Train's running on time." He said it casually, confidently, like he was on a different train than the one I was on. Maybe he was. I needed to test something. I needed to know if any of these people were like me, aware, confused, trapped, or if they were all part of the scenery. I chose carefully. 2 rows ahead, aisle seat, there was a woman I'd identified as one of the original 15. She'd been there since Columbus. She was maybe 40, professional looking, with a laptop bag and a water bottle with stickers on it. She looked real. She looked normal. She looked like someone I might work with. I stood up, walked to her row, and sat down in the empty window seat beside her. She looked up from her phone. "Hi," I said. "Sorry to bother you, can I ask you something weird?" She studied me for a second. "Sure. Where are you headed?" "Philadelphia. Conference." My stomach flipped. "What conference?" Data Connect. The logistics one. That was my conference. The same one. The same reason I was on this train. "Me too," I said. "I'm Marcus. Marcus Hayes. I work for Crest Point Logistics." Recognition crossed her face. "Oh, Crest Point. I've seen your name on the attendee list. I'm Priya Sharma, Meridian Analytics." A real person. A real name. A real company I'd heard of. My relief was so intense it was almost dizzying. "Priya, can I ask you something else? Something that's going to sound crazy." She lowered her phone. "Okay. Have you noticed anything strange about this train?" She looked at me for a long moment. Her expression was neutral, unreadable. "Strange how?" "The stops. Thornfield, Linden Crossing. Those aren't on the Amtrak route. The cafe car changing. The passengers appearing and disappearing. The windows. Any of it." Her expression didn't change. "I think you might be overtired," she said. "The stops have been normal. We went through Pittsburgh around 3. I woke up for it." "Pittsburgh? You stopped in Pittsburgh?" "We all stopped in Pittsburgh. You must have been asleep." I hadn't been asleep. Not for 1 second. There had been no Pittsburgh stop. There had been Thornfield and Linden Crossing, and between them, nothing but darkness and impossible fields. "Priya," I said slowly, "what time is it right now?" She glanced at her phone. 7:12. "What's the date?" "October 29th. 1 day after I'd boarded, not 3. Her phone and mine disagreed by 2 full days. "What does your phone say?" I asked, pointing. She held it up. The screen was clear. 7:12 a.m., October 29th. 1 bar of signal. Everything normal. "Now look at mine." I showed her my screen. 6:04 a.m., October 31st. No signal. She looked at it, then at me, then back at it. "Your clock's wrong," she said. "Probably a glitch. Reset it." "It's not a glitch. Priya, this train isn't—" "Marcus." She said my name firmly, kindly, the way you talk to someone who's having a breakdown. "You're stressed about the conference. You didn't sleep. Your phone has a bug. That's all this is. Go back to your seat. Get some rest. We'll be in Philly by 10. She put her earbuds in. Conversation over. I went back to my seat, sat down, tried to figure out what had just happened. Option 1. Priya was real and experiencing a completely different version of the train. Her world included Pittsburgh stops and correct dates and normal everything. We were on the same train, but in different realities overlaid on top of each other. Option 2. Priya was not real. She was a construct, a set piece, designed to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. The train was testing me, like the voice in 22A had warned. Option 3. I was crazy. I was having a psychotic episode on a perfectly normal Amtrak train, and all of this, the rules, the changing cars, and the impossible fields, was inside my head. I couldn't dismiss option 3. I'm honest enough to admit that. But I also couldn't accept it, because the laminated card was in my pocket. I could feel its edges through the fabric. I pulled it out and looked at it again. It was real, solid, printed. It wasn't a hallucination. It was an object, and the scratched words on the armrest, "Don't count." Those were real too. I could run my finger over the grooves. Unless I was hallucinating those too. This is what the train does, I realized. This is how it feeds. Not just on fear, on doubt, on the erosion of certainty. Every moment I spent questioning my own perception was a moment the train was eating. The confusion wasn't a side effect. It was the appetizer. I made a decision, a deliberate, conscious decision. The kind you make when you're standing at the edge of something and you know that stepping back is no longer an option. I chose to believe the card. I chose to believe the rules. I chose to treat this as real, whether it was or not. Because if it was real and I dismissed it, I was dead. And if it wasn't real and I took it seriously, the worst case was that I looked crazy on a train. I could live with crazy. I wasn't sure I could live with dead. At 7:30 a.m., the intercom clicked on. "Good morning, passengers. Breakfast service is now available in the cafe car. We will be making a scheduled stop at Harrow Falls in approximately 45 minutes. Current weather at Harrow Falls is 42 degrees and overcast." Harrow Falls. Not on the map. Never heard of it. But the announcement sounded normal. Weather report. Timing. The conductor's professional tone. No breathing underneath it this time. No swallowing sound. Day rules. More forgiving, the voice had said. I decided to go to the cafe car. It was after 6 a.m., so Rule 1 no longer applied. I needed to see if Derek was back, or if the old woman was still there. And I needed breakfast, if such a thing was possible, on a train that existed outside reality. I walked through car 5. Normal. Standard length. A few passengers having quiet conversations. The knitting woman from the night before was still in her seat, still knitting. She'd made significant progress. Whatever she was making was long, trailing over her lap and onto the floor. It was dark red, and in the morning light the color looked uncomfortably organic. Car 6. The cafe car. And there was Derek. Same buzz cut, same friendly face, same Amtrak vest. He looked up as I entered and grinned. "Morning. Coffee?" "You were gone," I said. "Last night. There was a woman here instead." His smile held. "I was off shift. Evelyn covers nights. She told me things about the train." "Yeah, Evelyn talks a lot." He poured coffee. Fresh this time. It smelled like actual coffee. "She's been here a while. She has her theories." "Theories?" "She said the train feeds on people." Derek set the coffee on the counter. His smile shifted slightly. Same shape, but the warmth behind it cooled by a degree. "The train is a train, Marcus. It goes from one place to another. It carries passengers. That's what trains do." "Then explain why my phone says it's October 31st and Priya's says it's the 29th. Different carriers, different towers, signals get weird out here." "Explain car 3 changing every time I walk through it." "Old rolling stock. The lighting plays tricks." "Explain the sunlit field at 3 a.m. He paused. The smile was gone now, not replaced by anything threatening, just absent. His face was neutral, professional. "You saw the field," he said. "Yes." "Wheat field, sunlight, no horizon?" "Yes." He nodded, slowly. "How long?" "About 90 seconds. "Which side?" "Both. Both windows." He picked up his cloth and started wiping the counter. That circular motion, clockwise. The same motion Evelyn had used. "Marcus, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to not react. Can you do that?" Yes. You're not on the train you think you're on. You boarded an Amtrak, yes. But the Amtrak arrived in Philadelphia on time, on the morning of October 29th, with all its passengers accounted for, including one named Marcus Hayes, seat 22B, car 4. That's impossible. I'm here. You are here. And you are there. The train, this train, copied you. It does that sometimes. It runs alongside the real train, close enough to touch, and it duplicates passengers. The real Marcus Hayes is in Philadelphia right now, probably checking into his hotel, complaining about train coffee. You're the copy. The counter. I was gripping it again. The same white-knuckled grip. That's not true. It might not be. I told you Evelyn has her theories. I have mine. The truth is, nobody knows exactly what this train is or how it works. We just know the rules and we follow them, and most of the time, most people get where they're going. Where am I going? That depends on you. The train has a terminus. Everyone gets there eventually. But the journey is different for everyone. What's at the terminus? He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something behind his eyes that wasn't customer service or friendliness or professional detachment. It was old, ancient, a weariness that didn't belong in a 25-year-old face. I don't remember, he said. I got there once, I must have, because I came back, but I don't remember what it was. He picked up the coffee cup and held it out to me. Drink your coffee. Go back to your seat. The day is easier than the night. Use it. Rest. Eat. Try not to think too hard about what you can't control. I took the coffee. It was good. It was the best coffee I'd ever had, and that felt like a trap, but I drank it anyway. One more question, I said. Sure. The laminated card in the seat pocket. Who made it? Derek smiled. A real one. Small and sad. You did. I left. I didn't go back to my seat. Not yet. I stood in the connecting passage between car 6 and car 5, in that rattling, noisy metal vestibule where the cars coupled together, and I tried to process what Derek had told me. I made the card. Me. But I hadn't made it. I'd found it. I'd never seen it before. Unless a future version of me or a past version or some other iteration had been on this train before, had learned the rules through trial and error, had written them down and laminated them and placed them in the seat pocket for the next version of me to find, which meant I'd been here before, or I would be here again, or both. The train was a loop, or a spiral, or something worse, something without a shape I could name. I went back to car 4, sat down, drank my coffee, watched the landscape through the right side window. It was beautiful, actually. Autumn hills, orange and red, a river running parallel to the tracks, silver in the morning light. If I focused only on the window, only on the world sliding past, I could almost believe I was on a normal train, almost pretend that everything was fine. Almost, that word again. At 8:15 a.m., the train stopped at Harrow Falls. The station was larger than Thornfield or Linden Crossing, a proper building, brick and stone, with a waiting room visible through large windows. People inside. A dozen, maybe more, sitting on benches, standing in line at what looked like a ticket counter. A clock on the wall read 8:15. Cars in a parking lot, a road leading away into a small town. Shops, a diner, a church steeple in the distance. It looked real. Aggressively, insistently real. Like a movie set designed to be convincing from every angle. The doors opened. Several passengers in my car stood up. Among them was Priya. She gathered her laptop bag, her water bottle, her jacket. She looked relaxed, happy even. She glanced at me as she passed. This is my stop, she said. Priya, this isn't Philadelphia. I know. I'm getting off here. My sister lives in Harrow Falls. Your sister lives in a town that doesn't exist. She gave me that look again, pity and concern, wrapped in politeness. Get some sleep, Marcus. You'll feel better. She walked off the train. I watched her cross the platform and enter the station building. Through the windows, I could see her greet a woman. Dark-haired, similar features, a family resemblance. They hugged. They walked toward the parking lot. They got into a car. The car drove away. I don't know if Priya was real. I don't know if her sister was real. I don't know if Harrow Falls was real. But I know that watching her leave, watching someone walk away from this train and into what appeared to be a normal life, was the loneliest I have ever felt. 5 new passengers boarded. I saw them through the window, walking across the platform and climbing aboard. Normal-looking people, with bags and tickets and coffee cups. I didn't know which car they entered. I didn't count them. Rule 3. Don't count. The doors closed. The train moved. And then things got bad. It started at 9 a.m., about 45 minutes after Harrow Falls. The landscape outside the window changed. Not suddenly. Gradually. The autumn hills flattened out. The river disappeared. The trees thinned and then stopped entirely. The road that had been running parallel to the tracks veered away and was gone. Within 10 minutes, there was nothing outside. Not darkness. This was daytime. The sky was pale gray. The light was diffuse, but nothing. Flat ground in every direction, featureless and colorless. No grass, no dirt, no road, no structures. Just a plain, extending to the horizon. The same uniform gray-beige as the sky. Like the world had been erased and only the rough draft remained. The train kept moving. I could feel the wheels, hear the rhythm, but there was nothing to move through. We were a train on an infinite blank page. This lasted for 20 minutes. Nobody in the car reacted. The remaining passengers. I wasn't counting. I was not counting. Sat in their seats, read their phones, stared out windows at nothing as if it were something. As if the void outside was just Iowa or Nebraska, flat and uninteresting, but fundamentally there. Then the shapes started. Far away at first. On the horizon line, where the gray ground met the gray sky, dark forms began to appear. Vertical. Thin. Spaced irregularly, like trees in a sparse forest. But they weren't trees. Trees have branches, texture, organic randomness. These were perfectly straight, perfectly vertical, perfectly black against the gray. And they were getting closer. Not because the train was approaching them. The train's direction hadn't changed. I could feel that in the motion. They were getting closer because they were moving toward the train. Across the featureless ground, these black vertical shapes were gliding toward us, silent, without legs or wheels or any visible means of locomotion, just advancing, getting larger, getting closer. When the nearest ones were maybe a quarter-mile away, I could see that they were tall, very tall, 20 feet, maybe 30, thin as flagpoles, featureless, no faces, no limbs, no texture, just columns of black, standing upright, moving with slow, deliberate purpose toward the tracks. I grabbed the armrest. My mouth was dry. My heart was hammering now. Not the deliberate, emphatic beating from before, but real animal terror drumming against my ribs. The nearest shape was 100 yards away, 50, 20. It stopped. They all stopped. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, arrayed across the blank landscape on both sides of the train, standing motionless at a distance of roughly 15 yards from the tracks. Like an audience. Like sentinels. Like the bars of a cage. The train rolled through them. I could see them sliding past the window, one after another, Close enough that if I'd opened the window, I could have thrown a rock and hit one. Up close, they were worse. Not solid. Exactly. The blackness wasn't a surface. It was a depth, like looking into a hole in the shape of a pillar, a three-dimensional absence, a gap in the world, shaped like something standing. And they were oriented, each one angled slightly, as if turned toward the train, watching without eyes, attending without faces. The man across the aisle, one I didn't recognize, one of the newer passengers, was looking out his window too. He was pale. His hands were clenched in his lap. He was seeing them. Our eyes met. His were wide, terrified, real. "You see them?" I whispered. He nodded, a tiny, frantic nod. "What are they?" He shook his head. "Don't know, but they've been there before. I've seen them before. This is my third time. Third time on this train. Third time through this part. The empty place. The pillars." He swallowed hard. "I've been on this train for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. How?" I asked. "How have you been on here for 2 weeks?" "The stops," he said. "Every time a stop comes, I think about getting off. But the card says my destination may not be where I intended, and I don't know what's out there." He gestured at the window, at the black pillars sliding past. "At least on the train there are rules. Out there," he shook his head, "I don't know the rules for out there." The pillars continued for another 10 minutes. Then they receded, stepping back from the tracks in unison, retreating to the horizon line, shrinking to specks, and finally vanishing. The blank landscape continued for a few more minutes. Then, like a curtain rising, the world came back. Hills, trees, a road, a farmhouse in the distance with a red barn. Normal, beautiful, autumn. I turned to the man across the aisle to continue our conversation. His seat was empty. His bag was gone. No impression in the cushion. No sign he'd ever been there. Rule 3 echoed in my head. Don't count the other passengers. But I wasn't counting. I was losing them. The hours after the pillar field blurred together in a way that I'm still trying to untangle. Time on the train didn't float. It pooled. Moments of normalcy would stretch out like taffy, long and smooth and almost boring, and then something would happen, and time would compress, snapping tight like a rubber band. I stayed in my seat. I followed the rules. I didn't count. I didn't look at the left windows when the light in the car started to shift toward blue. I didn't respond when, at some point in the early afternoon, or what felt like early afternoon, a child's voice from the row behind me said, "Mr. Hayes, are you awake?" Soft, sweet, patient. I closed my eyes and breathed, and the voice didn't come again. I ate a granola bar from my bag, drank water from a bottle I'd brought. I didn't go back to the cafe car. I didn't trust what I'd find there. The landscape outside the right side window cycled through environments like a slideshow. Autumn forest, winter, actual snow, thick and white, covering everything. Then spring, cherry blossoms, impossibly pink against a blue sky. Then summer, green so bright it looked digital. Then autumn again, seasons passing in minutes, years compressed into a single afternoon ride. At some point, I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. I'd been awake for, I don't know, 20 hours, 30. The timestamp on my phone was meaningless, but my body decided for me the way it does, and I slid sideways against the window and I was gone. I dreamed about my apartment, about my kitchen, about standing at the counter making coffee in the morning, the way I did every day. The French press, the kettle, the sound of NPR from the living room. Everything correct, everything in its place. But the window over the sink didn't show the parking lot. It showed tracks. Railroad tracks, stretching away to a vanishing point, perfectly parallel, perfectly straight. laid across that same featureless gray plain. And the coffee in my French press wasn't coffee. It was dark, thicker than coffee. It moved differently when I pressed the plunger down. Sluggish, resistant, like it didn't want to be separated. And when I poured it into my mug, it was warm, not hot, body temperature. I woke up with a jolt. The train was stopped. No announcement. Rule 5. If the train stops and no announcement is made, close your eyes until it moves again. I closed my eyes, immediately, reflexively, like touching a hot stove. No thought, just reaction. The train was silent. Not quiet, silent. The wheels weren't turning. The ventilation wasn't running. No ambient hum, no electrical buzz, none of the thousand small sounds a train makes just by existing. It was the absence of sound, the void of it, like being inside a held breath. I kept my eyes closed. My hands were fists in my lap. My jaw was clenched so tight my teeth ached. Something moved in the car. Not footsteps. Something heavier. A weight shifting, a presence displacing air, a sound like fabric dragging across the floor. Slow, deliberate, moving down the aisle. Toward me. I could feel it coming. That displacement of atmosphere. The temperature dropping. Not everywhere. Just in a line. A path. A wake of cold moving through the car like the trail of something passing through water. Closer. Closer. It stopped next to my row. I could feel it there. Right there. In the aisle. Level with my seat. Maybe 2 feet away. The cold was intense now. Not winter cold. Not weather cold. A different kind. The cold of a room that hasn't been opened in years. The cold of earth. Of depth. It was looking at me. I knew it. Whatever it was, wherever its eyes were. If it had eyes. They were pointed at me. I could feel the attention, like a physical weight, like a hand pressing on my chest. I didn't open my eyes. I breathed. In, out, in, out. Each breath a conscious act, each exhalation a prayer that the next inhale would come. Something touched my hand. Not grabbed. Touched. One finger. Or one something that functioned like a finger, pressing against the back of my right hand, which was resting on the armrest. The touch was cold, not painful, almost gentle. An exploration, like it was reading me through my skin. It traced a line across my knuckles, slow, from index finger to pinky, like it was counting my fingers. I did not move. I did not breathe. I did not open my eyes. The touch withdrew. The cold retreated. The presence moved away, back down the aisle, that dragging fabric sound receding toward the far end of the car. The ventilation hummed back on. The wheels began to turn. The train moved. I opened my eyes. The car looked normal. Passengers in their seats. Daylight through the windows. The world outside was forest. Dense pine. Snow on the ground. Nothing to indicate that anything had happened. But on the back of my right hand, across my knuckles, there was a line. Thin. White. Like an old scar. Running from my index finger to my pinky, in exactly the path the touch had traced. It hadn't been there before. I'd had those hands for 34 years and there had never been a scar across those knuckles. But there it was. As if it had always been there. As if my skin had simply decided to remember something that had happened to a different version of me. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of it. Evidence. Proof. Something to hold on to when my mind started trying to convince me I was imagining things. The time on my phone said 3:33 p.m. The date said November 2nd. 5 days. I'd been on this train for what felt like maybe 18 hours and 5 days had passed. Whatever relationship existed between train time and real time, it was accelerating. The gap was getting wider. At 4 p.m. by my phone, which meant nothing, but I needed some reference point. The intercom clicked on. "Attention passengers, we will be arriving at Moorgate in 30 minutes. Moorgate is the final scheduled stop before the terminus. All passengers continuing to the terminus should ensure they have their belongings ready." The terminus. Derek had mentioned it. Everyone gets there eventually. He'd been there and come back but couldn't remember it. I didn't know what to do. I'd been following the rules. Staying in my car, not counting, not looking, not responding. And the train was still taking me somewhere. Every stop brought me closer to the terminus, whatever that was. And every stop took passengers away and brought new ones. I needed to make a choice. Get off at Moorgate. Leave the train. Step into whatever reality existed at a station that probably didn't belong to any map. Or stay on and ride to the end. The blonde woman at Linden Crossing had said, "Get off." Derek and Evelyn said, "Stay." The laminated card said I'd arrive at my destination. But my destination might not be where I intended. 30 minutes to decide. I went to the cafe car. I needed to talk to someone. Derek, Evelyn, anyone. Through car 5, normal, though the knitting woman's project had grown impossibly large. A cascade of dark red yarn that pooled around her feet and spread under the seats like a bloodstain in fiber form. She was still knitting, still not looking up. Her needles clicked at exactly the same tempo they'd been clicking 12 hours ago. Maybe she'd been knitting for years. Car 6. The cafe car was empty. No Derek, no Evelyn, no one behind the counter. The lights were on. The carafe was full. The menu boards showed normal prices in printed text, but there was no one to serve. And on the counter, there was a note, handwritten on a napkin in neat block capitals. Marcus. Moorgate is real. If you get off, you can leave. Walk north from the station. Don't look back at the train. Don't come back. But know this. If you leave, the train takes something. It always takes something. Everyone who gets off leaves a piece of themselves behind. A memory, a face, a name. Something you won't know is missing until someone else reminds you. If you stay, the terminus will show you what the train really is, and that knowledge is a different kind of price. Either way, you pay. I pocketed the napkin, walked back to my seat. 20 minutes to Moorgate. I sat and I thought. I thought about Columbus, about my apartment, my job, my life. The life that might still be there or might not. Derek had said the real Marcus Hayes was in Philadelphia at the conference, that I was a copy. If that was true, then going back to my life wasn't an option. There was already a Marcus there. I'd step off the train into a world where I already existed, and then what? 2 of me? Would the world even allow that? But maybe Derek was wrong. Maybe he was lying. Maybe the train wanted me to believe I was a copy so I'd have no reason to leave. Maybe that was the trap. Convincing passengers they had nowhere to go so they'd ride all the way to the terminus. Feed it all the way to the end. 15 minutes. I thought about the rules, about the card, about the fact that, according to Derek, I had made the card. Some version of me. A version that had been through this before. That version had survived long enough to write 10 rules, laminate them, and place them for the next iteration. If I'd been here before, I'd made choices before, and one of those choices had led to me being here again. A loop, a spiral, the same story, told over and over with slight variations. What if getting off at Moorgate was what I'd always done? What if that was the choice that kept resetting me? What if the piece the train took, the memory, the face, the name, was the memory of being on the train? So I'd go back to my life, forget everything, and then one day my car would break down, and I'd find a train, and I'd board it, and it would start again. A loop. But what if staying, riding to the terminus, was the way to break it? What if seeing what the train really was, paying that different price, was the only way to end the cycle? 10 minutes. My phone buzzed. A notification. The same black background, the same white text. Moorgate, approach. Final departure opportunity. Below it, 2 words. Stay/leave. Like a prompt. Like the train was asking me directly, like it wanted my informed consent. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered. 5 minutes. The landscape outside was changing again. The forest thinned. Buildings appeared. Old ones, stone, with steep roofs and small windows. A town, growing denser as the train slowed. Cobblestone streets visible between the buildings. Lampposts with actual flames. A church with a bell tower. People walking. People in coats and hats carrying bags, living their lives. Moorgate looked like a town from 100 years ago. But it looked alive. Real. Functional. A place you could live. 3 minutes. I heard the brakes engage. Felt the deceleration. Through the window, a platform appeared. Small, but well-maintained. A sign. Moorgate. Painted green and white, like Thornfield. 2 minutes. I stood up. Then I sat down. Then I stood up again. I grabbed my bag from the overhead rack. My laptop, my charger, my change of clothes, conference folder I'd never need. I slung it over my shoulder. 1 minute. The train stopped. The doors opened. Cold air. The smell of wood smoke and rain on stone. I walked to the door. I stood on the threshold. 1 foot on the train. 1 foot on the platform. Below me, the gap between the train and the platform edged a few inches of darkness, the rails gleaming. I looked back down the car. The passengers sat in their seats. Some looked at me. Most didn't. But one did. In the back of the car, in a seat I hadn't noticed was occupied, there was a figure, sitting in the shadows where the daylight from the windows didn't quite reach. I couldn't see details. Just a shape. A person-shaped absence, darker than the shadows around it. Like the pillars in the empty field, but sitting. Seated. Patient. It raised a hand. Not a wave, a gesture, beckoning. Come back, sit down, stay. And I felt it. The pull. Physical. Like gravity. Like the train had its own mass and I was caught in its orbit. My muscles wanted to turn around. My feet wanted to walk back down the aisle. My body wanted to return to 22B and sit down and ride forever. But my mind said no. I stepped off. Both feet on the platform. Cold stone under my shoes. Real cold. Real stone. The doors closed behind me. I heard the hiss. I felt the train begin to move, and I remembered the note. Don't look back at the train. I didn't look back. I walked forward, across the platform, toward the station building. My back was to the tracks and every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn around, to see it leave, to watch the train that had been my entire world for the last hours, days, disappear. I didn't turn. I walked. I heard the wheels accelerate. I felt the vibration through the platform, through the stone, through my bones. The sound grew and then faded, grew and faded, and then it was gone. I was standing in front of the station building. The door was wooden, heavy with a brass handle. I pushed it open and went inside. The waiting room was warm. A pot-bellied stove in the corner, radiating heat. Wooden benches, a ticket counter with a window, unmanned, a clock on the wall. Mechanical, pendulum, its tick, loud and precise. It read 4:47 p.m. There was a man on one of the benches. Old, heavy-set, wool coat, flat cap. He was eating an apple with a pocket knife, cutting slices and lifting them to his mouth on the blade. You got off, he said. Not a question. Yeah. North is through that door. He pointed with the knife to a door on the far side of the waiting room. Follow the road. You'll hit a highway in about 2 miles. It'll feel longer than 2 miles, but it's 2 miles. Don't stop. Don't go into any buildings between here and the highway, and don't talk to anyone you see on the road. Why not? He cut another slice of apple, chewed, swallowed. Because some of them got off the train too, a long time ago, and the piece the train took from them was the piece that made them people. I walked to the door, stopped. What did the train take from you? He looked at me. His face was calm, his eyes were clear. But when he smiled, there was a gap in it. Not a missing tooth, but a missing something. An absence in his expression where an emotion should have been, like someone had surgically removed a specific feeling from his face. My son, he said. Not my actual son. The memory of him. I know I had a son. I know his name was Thomas. I know he was 7 when I boarded the train and 9 when I got off. But I cannot remember his face. I cannot remember his voice. I cannot feel anything when I think about him. He's a fact, not a memory. A word, not a person. He cut another slice. Go, he said, before it settles in. I went. The road from Moorgate Station was narrow, cobblestone for the first few hundred yards, then dirt, then gravel. The town was behind me. I could feel it back there, that collection of stone buildings and firelight, getting smaller with each step. Ahead was forest. Pine trees, tall and dense, their branches interlocking overhead to form a canopy that filtered the gray afternoon light into something dimmer. Something private. I walked. My bag bounced against my hip. My breath made clouds. The gravel crunched under my shoes. The only sound, the only evidence that anyone was here, that anything was happening at all. The road was straight, perfectly straight, like a line drawn with a ruler through the forest, the trees parting to accommodate it in a way that didn't feel natural. Trees don't part that neatly. Forests don't make way. At about the half-mile mark, I saw the first figure, standing off to the right of the road, maybe 30 feet into the trees, motionless, facing the road, facing me. I kept walking. Don't talk to anyone you see on the road. That was what the old man had said. Don't talk to them. Another figure, left side this time, closer to the road, maybe 20 feet, standing among the trees, still as the trunks around them. I couldn't see details. The dim light and the distance reduced them to shapes. Person-shaped, upright, watching. I walked faster. More of them. Every 100 yards, another figure, alternating sides of the road, some closer than others, some almost at the road's edge. None of them moved. None of them spoke. But they were oriented toward me with that same eyeless attention the pillars had shown on the empty plain. I understood now what the old man meant. These were people who'd gotten off the train, who'd walked this road, who'd lost something essential, something that made them human rather than shapes. They'd stopped here, stuck between the train and the highway, between the unreal and the real, caught in the gap. I walked through a corridor of silent watchers for what felt like an hour but might have been 20 minutes. The road stayed straight. The trees stayed dense. The figures stayed still. Then the forest ended. Abruptly, like a wall. One step I was under the canopy. The next, I was in open air. The road met a highway. 2 lanes, asphalt, yellow center line, a guardrail, a road sign, Route 117. And beyond the highway, a gas station, lit, open. A car at one of the pumps, a woman filling up, a kid in the back seat playing with a tablet. Real. All of it. Undeniably, aggressively, overwhelmingly real. I crossed the highway. I walked into the gas station. The bell above the door chimed. The clerk, a teenager, acne, braces, bored expression, looked up. "Help you?" "Where am I?" "Route 117, Crestview." "What state?" He looked at me like I'd asked what planet I was on. "Pennsylvania." "What's the date?" "November 2nd. He paused. "You okay, man?" November 2nd. 5 days after I'd boarded. Or had my phone been right? Or was time finally synchronizing? "Can I use your phone? I need to call someone." He slid a landline across the counter. I picked it up and dialed my own number. My cell number. The number of the phone in my pocket, which was, I checked, dead. Battery at 0. Screen black. The phone rang 3 times. Someone picked up. "Hello?" Voice. A man's voice. My voice. I froze. Completely. Every muscle, every thought. My voice, saying hello, coming through the earpiece of a gas station phone in a town I'd never heard of. "Hello," he said again. Me. The other me. The one who'd arrived in Philadelphia on October 29th. The one who was living my life while I'd been riding through the void. I hung up. I stood there with my hand on the phone and I tried to feel something. Fear, anger, confusion, despair, something. But the feeling that came was different. It was absence. A gap. A hole in my chest. Where something used to be, something I hadn't noticed until it was gone. The train had taken its price. I tried to remember what it was. I tried to feel the edges of the hole, to identify what was missing. It wasn't a person. I could remember everyone I knew. It wasn't a fact. My knowledge seemed intact. It wasn't a skill. I could still think, analyze, reason. But something was gone. Something that had been fundamental to who I was. So fundamental that I couldn't even identify it by its absence, like trying to see the blind spot in your own eye. It's there. You know it's there, but you can't look at it directly. I left the gas station. I walked to the highway. I stuck out my thumb. A truck stopped. A delivery truck, plumbing supplies. The driver was friendly. He talked about football. He drove me to the nearest city with a bus station. I bought a ticket to Columbus. I sat in the bus for 4 hours and I looked out the window and I saw normal things. Roads, cars, buildings, people. And none of them felt entirely solid. I got home on November 4th. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it. French press on the counter. NPR schedule on the fridge. My car was gone. Still at the mechanic, probably. Everything in its place. But someone had been there. The conference folder was on the kitchen table, with notes in my handwriting. Notes I hadn't written. A hotel receipt from Philadelphia, a taxi receipt, a coffee receipt from a shop called The Daily Grind, dated October 30th. The other Marcus had been here, had come back from the conference, had lived in my apartment, had slept in my bed. But he wasn't here now. I checked everywhere. The apartment was empty. His bags were unpacked. A suitcase I didn't recognize. Clothes I didn't own. Toiletries in the bathroom that were the same brands I used but slightly different. The same toothpaste but a different size tube. The same deodorant but a different scent. Close. Almost identical. But not quite. I sat on my bed. My bed. The bed that belonged to me. To both of me. To whatever I was now. And I noticed the sound. Faint. So faint I might have been imagining it. A low rhythmic vibration, felt more than heard. The hum of wheels on tracks. The heartbeat of a train. Distant but present. Coming from everywhere and nowhere. Coming from under the floor, through the walls, from inside the bones of the building. The train was still out there, and it knew where I lived. That was 11 days ago. I haven't left the apartment since. I've called in sick to work. Or rather, I've discovered that I don't have a job anymore. When I called Crest Point, they were confused. Marcus Hayes was at work, they said. Right there in the office. Had been there since the Monday after the conference. Good presentation, they said. Everyone was impressed. He's living my life. The other one. The original. Or the copy. I don't know which of us is which anymore, and I'm not sure it matters. I've been writing this because I need someone to know. I've been writing this because the sound is getting louder. Every day. A little louder. Every night. A little closer. The vibration under my feet. The rhythm. The hum. I found something this morning. On my kitchen table, next to the conference folder. It wasn't there yesterday. I'm certain of that. A laminated card. The size of a playing card. Text on both sides. Familiar text. My text. The rules. But this one has 11 rules, not 10. The 11th is new. 11. If you have left the train and the sound has followed you, return to the nearest station at midnight. The train will be there. Board car 4. Sit in seat 22. B. The cycle will begin again. This is not a punishment. This is a correction. A correction. The sound is louder tonight. I can hear it clearly now. Wheels on tracks, steady, rhythmic, coming from the north, from the direction of Union Station. The station they tore down in the 70s. The station that shouldn't exist. I found the old card. The one from the train. The 10-rule card. And I put it next to the new one. They're identical. Same lamination, same font, same wear patterns. The only difference is that the new card has the 11th rule on an additional line in slightly smaller text, as if it had been squeezed in. The same card. Updated. I think I understand now. I think I understand what Derek meant when he said I'd made the card. It wasn't a past version of me or a future version. It was this version, right now. This moment. The card exists because I'm about to make it. The loop doesn't go backward or forward. It goes around. I find the card. I ride the train. I get off. I come back. And then I make the card and place it on the next train for the next version of me to find. I am the author and the reader, the warning and the warned, the experiment and the result. And the 11th rule is telling me what the result is. Go back. It's 11:30 p.m. November 13th. I'm putting on my jacket. I'm picking up my bag. The same bag, the laptop, the charger, the change of clothes. I'm going to walk north. I'm going to find Union Station or whatever the train is built in its place. I'm going to stand on the platform and I'm going to wait. The train will come. It always comes, 5 minutes early. And I'll board, and I'll sit in 22B, and it will start again. But this time, I'm going to do something different. I don't know what yet, but I've been through this before, maybe dozens of times, maybe hundreds, and each time I've left a card with one more rule. Each iteration, one more piece of knowledge, one more thing I've learned. Eventually, there will be enough rules. Eventually, the card will have everything I need. Eventually, some version of me will read it and know exactly what to do. I just have to keep writing until then. The sound is very loud now. I can feel it in my teeth. I can feel it in the floor. The windows are vibrating, a fine, constant tremor, like the building is humming along with the tracks. I'm going outside now. I'm going to the station. If you're reading this, and you've never seen the train, then you're safe. Stay safe. Don't take overnight trains. Don't board anything that arrives 5 minutes early. Don't trust doors that appear where doors shouldn't be. But if you're reading this, and the sound is already there, that low rhythmic hum, that vibration under your feet, those wheels on tracks that shouldn't exist, then I have one piece of advice. Check your seat pocket. There might be a card. Marcus slowly reached toward the seat pocket in front of him. His fingers were trembling. He hesitated for a second. Then he pulled the fabric aside and slid his hand inside. There was something there. Flat, Solid. He pulled it out. A laminated card. The same card. The same rules. Something was different. At the bottom, there was a new line, one he hadn't seen before. 11. If you get off, you are already back on. Marcus froze. His heart pounded in his chest. No, that hadn't been there before. He was sure of it. Then, the intercom crackled to life. Passengers for overnight service. Boarding will begin shortly. Something in his mind snapped into place. He knew that voice. He had heard it before. Somewhere. Sometime. He slowly looked up. He wasn't on the train anymore. He was standing on a platform. People moved around him. Normal sounds. Normal light. Everything looked real. In the distance, a train pulled in. Silver and blue. The same train. Marcus felt his breath catch. Because someone stepped off. A man. Holding a bag. Looking tired. It was him. The other Marcus checked his phone. Same movement. Same habits. Same face. Marcus took a step back. Everything hit him at once. The train doesn't take you somewhere. It brings you back. The card shook in his hand. He looked down at it again. The new line felt heavier now. More real. Without thinking, his hand moved to his pocket. A pen. He didn't remember taking it out. But he knew what to do. There was still space at the bottom of the card. More room for rules. His hand trembled as he wrote. 12. If you're reading this, you're already on the train. In the distance, the train doors opened. People started boarding. No one hesitated. No one understood. Marcus slowly closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and when he opened them again, he was sitting. Car 4. Seat 22B. Beneath his hand, scratched into the armrest. Don't count.